5 of us at 10 o'clock.
Where is everybody?
Are they at the lake, the beach? Where are they at? We should go there and find them. And Tim is leading.
And he's not here.
What'd you think about the investor panel last night?
That was good.
Do you like that?
That was very good. Yeah.
I thought so too. I learned a lot, or it's just cool to hear other people's
Mhm.
stories.
Yeah. Well, especially when Devon was talking about like he kind of got burned and then he gave up. And then it's like, just because you have a bad situation doesn't mean you have to stop. And now he's probably glad he's back in it. So, yeah.
Well, it was very inspirational to hear when he said his net sheet or something like his net worth or whatever it was is like 15 times better than what it was in 2018. And I'm like, I was doing some math real
Yeah.
quick in my head. I'm like, that's 8 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. 8 years isn't that long.
No, it's not
He
that
made up a
long.
lot of ground real quick.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, hi, Tim.
Hi, how are you?
We're good. We're just chit-chatting.
I
Wondering where
love
everyone
it.
else is.
Whose net worth statement were you just mentioning? Devon's?
Devon's, yeah, we did the
Yeah,
investor panel yesterday for the Wealth Building
yeah,
Club, and it was really, really great to hear from Lonnie
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
Devon and Nate. And yeah, it was
Yeah.
really good. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah. It was good.
Jake loves looking at net worth statements too, man. That guy, he's all about building net worth.
Oh yeah.
Numbers nerd.
Numbers nerd. Happy birthday, man.
Thanks. Appreciate it. Well, a couple days ago, but the whole
Yeah.
birthday week.
All week long, all month
Yeah,
Yeah.
long.
my birthday's September 1st. I celebrate it the whole month of September. It's my birth month. I mean, it is full on.
You sound like my wife. She's like, "Hey, can I get this? It's almost my birthday." I'm like, "It's your birthday's in 3 weeks."
Yes,
That's hilarious. I love
as
it.
it should.
I love it. All right, well, let's jump in. It's 10:02. Hopefully, everybody's having a crazy, awesome week this week and getting stuff knocked out. We've had a bunch of interesting and wild stuff happening over the last week and a half. So I thought we'd just kind of open it up and get chit chatting. And I definitely wanted to bring up Becca's situation. I don't know if everybody's in light of that one, but had a couple of little tidbits of info I wanted to share on that just because um, it stuff happens. So though if you have not heard, Becca, do you mind me sharing part of your little story here? I don't want to steal your thunder if that's even what you want to call it. But I just thought I'd share a little bit about what I know with my involvement. I know we talked about it briefly at team meeting. Darren kind of brought it up, which was when something is damaged during the inspection period, and in specific during the inspection itself. And Darren and Brandy even had the quiz up there on the screen. You know whose responsibility that is, and what that where the liability and where the responsibility lies and where it falls within. And Becca, you jump in whenever you want. But the bottom line is Becca's listing it was vacant. Nobody lived in the property. And during the inspection itself, they tested the dishwasher and said that it didn't work. And then they perform the inspections, leave. Again, nobody lives at the house. The appraiser shows up and the dishwasher's leaked all over the floor, leaked through the floor, ruined the flooring, leaked through the ceiling below it. And the appraiser calls Becca to say, "Hey, you got to know this is what we're dealing with over here." And nobody had been in the house except for the buyer's agent, and their inspector. And so Beckett made a phone call to the inspector and to the buyer's agent, and basically they were all just like, it's not our problem. We didn't do it. Like we didn't even touch the dishwasher. We didn't mess with it. Yada yada yada. Um, it doesn't really matter what they say. This is the status of the house before your inspection, and this is the status of the house after your inspection. And super interesting conversation that I got involved with. I called the other broker that was involved, the other brokerage, and talked to some people in leadership. And I'll give you a verbatim quote from one of their people in leadership when I was just asked. I just came from curiosity, like, hey, curious what you know about this situation, or if you've even heard of it at all. This is the property address. I wasn't there. I wasn't involved. I'm kind of coming into the hindsight just out of curiosity, kind of what do you know? And they shared with me, the information that they know. And I was like, okay, well, per the contract, here's what I'm understanding is that the inspector for sure is responsible for it. And man, this person at the other brokerage really cut me off hard to let me know this. Hey, man, I mean, that's real hard to point the finger of blame here. I mean, shit happens. In fact, shit happens so much they made a bumper sticker out of it. All right. So that's your professional take from a brokerage. That's how you want to respond. So I shouldn't be, but I was actually a little bit stunned. I was on the phone. I'm like, wow, like I thought I was going to have another real estate professional have a professional conversation about a transaction with me. And that was your initial, like, you don't know me. We haven't met before. You don't know. I wasn't saying you need to pay for this, come in accusatory. I was just saying, I was asking some questions and then said, hey, this is what, here's how I'm reading the contract. And it was like hard pressed from them. And I started thinking about our leadership team just at Southland Partners, like who would have answered that call, or who that person, who that would have gone to if it would have been the roles reversed. And I'm like, I called, and maybe somebody from the ownership group. So could have been, Nate, could have been Ryan Finn, could have been Lonnie Branson, could have been Brandy Nieto, could have been Darren. And I'm like, every single person from our brokerage that would have handled that would have been so much more professional, and would have also came from curiosity, and would have also tried to create a win-win and have a solution. And I thought, I am so stinking glad I'm at Southland Partners, because the way that this brokerage handled the situation, like, I was embarrassed for him. I would have been embarrassed if I was an agent to be there. And Nate just popped on. Nate's always a consummate professional too. Like, he would have handled that call. I mean, it's like anybody in our leadership would have handled that with such poise and been very professional. And I'm like, this other brokerage, like, that sucks. I would never join a brokerage like that. Never leaving or going anywhere anyway, but just thinking about other agents. And I thought, man, what a shame, because we do have situations that pop up, and in his vernacular, shit does happen. Things do go wrong. I've gone to the lake before, and I was gone for a week, and I came back and my ice maker was leaking in my refrigerator, and my floor, my hardwood floor was cupped in the front of the refrigerator. That's how I knew about it. Nobody was there. No inspector showed up. Nobody messed with the ice maker. It just, stuff happens sometimes, right? So stuff does happen. However, we all, like, they definitely had some responsibility in it. And when push came to shove, I think Becca and her sellers, they were actually very generous and willing to, like, hey, let's kind of meet in the middle here. They worked it out that they're going to pay for some repair of the stuff, and they were actually going to kind of create a win-win where I don't think that they had to. And the other people just were so unprofessional and just not willing to even, well, for a while, Becca, they weren't even willing to have a conversation about it. So, I mean, just really kind of unbelievable treatment. And again, it just made me think, like, wow, I'm so proud of our Southland team and our agents, and how we handle things professionally and stay calm and cool and try to work out mutual wins. And anyway, I thought I'd share that with you. I mean, stuff does have to get ugly sometimes. You do have to get the attorneys involved at times, and it's a bummer when we do. And I think that most times it's not necessary if there's good, open, clear communication between parties, and they were just kind of unwilling to have that. So, real bummer. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Brandy.
Well, I was going to ask Becca, like, if you could update us on what happened. You guys were supposed to close last Tuesday or whatever it was. What happened? What'd your seller decide to do?
She decided to cancel on principle, because if she had to replace the carpet, they weren't going to get the house. So if she's going to replace the carpet, she's going to put it back on the market just on principle alone.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So it's now on hold and she's going to make repairs and then we'll put it back on the market. So
And
that's where we're
bummer
at.
because that's a bummer. I mean, I think that part of their brokerage's team, I know how I've been hunting with buyers lately. Man, I know how difficult it is to even find a right fit for your buyer in this market. And then when you do find the right fit,
Yeah.
to actually get your offer accepted. So to have a property, they even after all of that, the buyers still wanted the property. They still wanted to move forward. They just wanted hey, we didn't do it. We're the buyers. We just want it taken care of. We don't. The buyers didn't care who takes care of it. If their agent does, if the inspector does, if Becca's sellers do, they just want the house and they want to move forward. And now, because of the way that their team handled communication and handled the situation, those buyers are going to miss out on the house now because the sellers had enough. That's a bummer. That's not putting the client first. And that's really unfortunate. If they were really putting the client first, they'd have figured out a way to get their buyers in that house. And yeah, now they miss out on it. So total bummer.
Another bummer in the situation on that situation with that buyer and that seller was the appraiser found the small flood. The appraiser found it. So he knew how bad it was. He knew it dripped through. He knew. So then he said, okay, I think the value probably was going to come back okay, but now the carpet had to be replaced. It had to be tested for mold, had to be mitigated for mold, all of that stuff. And that's where the seller was like, okay, if the buyer's not willing to meet us halfway and all that, then, they're not going to get it, because Becca also put a 210 home warranty on her listing. So good job, Becca. So 210 was, I don't know if they still are. You can jump in and say.
They're going to replace the dishwasher for $89.
Okay, so they're going to replace the dishwasher for $89 because she put a 210 home warranty on her listing. Good job. For free, by the way. So they're going to get a new dishwasher and then the seller's going to have to replace the carpet. But yeah, so from the seller's point of view, they're not saying, hey, buyer, you and your inspector cannot come in here, flood my house, and then get a new dishwasher and new carpet for nothing. That's not how this is going to work. So yeah, thanks for jumping in to help with that, Tim, because I know Caesar jumped in at one point. Darren was trying to help. I tried to help. I don't know. It's nobody. This is kind of new territory for all of us. So
it is, because thankfully, most of our co-ops that we've done, we've had really good teams on the other end of them. Rarely do we have a team that says shit happens. Go figure it out. I don't know how you stay in business with that kind of attitude. However, we rarely run into that. So bummer. I apologize, Becca, for the way that they handled things and the way that they treated you, and it just as a bummer. And honestly, nobody won in that situation because of how they handled things. No, not one person came. Nobody won. Everybody lost in that, including their buyers who really were excited about the house.
Yeah.
A terrible situation. That's all from having a bad attitude and bad communication.
One thing that I see in these types of situations is we have these contracts, right? And we tell our people, these are legal binding contracts. And when we sign it, you better know what you're signing. You better agree to it. Then when a dispute comes up like this, and it clearly says one sentence, what happens if the house is damaged during the inspection, it says the buyer is responsible. In all capitals, buyer. Okay, it says that. I read it, you read it, we all read it. But what these kind of situations do is like, okay, so what do you do if they say, no, we don't, no, we're not. And we say, yes, you are. And they say, no, we're not. And you damaged it. No, we didn't. I'm like, oh, there's not like this contract police that comes in and goes, okay, blow the whistle, time out. Here we go. This is how it's going to go down. There's nobody coming like that. I mean, it has to, to go to litigation to get to that point. So it's kind of frustrating because we believe that they're legal binding contracts, but who's there to hold their feet to the fire? That was the kind of that's disappointing for me, like a rule follower. I'm a rule follower. I'm like, well, this is the rules. This is what it says. This is how it should go. And our broker said they're responsible. Their broker says, no, we're not. Then what do?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's it. That's the only thing that we can do is, in the contract, it does say that our first line of defense, if there is a disagreement like that, is to go through the regional association's arbitration. Well, so now what? Our sellers need to sell the house right now. That we can't go through 6 weeks of arbitration and then these guys, I mean, and in the end, I think that we ended up, I think we're only going to spend, a couple few $1,000s maybe, but in some instances, a couple few $1,000s, they don't have it. In this case, the seller they had it and they were able to do the repairs, and maybe they can even recapture that when they sell it because it's actually going to show better that now that they've got new flooring and a new dishwasher and stuff in there. However, going through the arbitration, if that doesn't work and now we have to go the legal, go a lawsuit route, man, it's time. And the buyers have their earnest deposit tied up. The sellers are trying to get the house sold. And time is the biggest, I mean, that's the biggest bummer right there. So I see Jake's comment down there. Jake said another example of why when reviewing offers, it's not all about the numbers. Who you're working with on the other side matters a lot. It absolutely does. Sometimes that's worth the struggle is the money doesn't matter in this case because it didn't matter. They're not going to get it anyway. They're having to cancel and move on. So anyway, yeah, lots of lessons in that one, lots of things to learn. And unfortunately, some of that stuff, it's like learning martial arts. What if somebody jumps out of a tree behind me and hits me from with a bat from behind? Like, well, then you're hosed. You can't see everything coming, right? So we're not always going to be able to see and defend against these, but it's really nice. That's one of the good things about being a part of an active brokerage is I've never been in that situation before. However, unfortunately for Becca, we can all kind of go to school on it and learn and see what could happen is I'm kind of like Brandy. I just thought that if shit does happen, unfortunately it's on the buyers because it's on the buy side because the contract states this, and then the buyers say, well, you can't prove it. We didn't break it. We didn't unhook the water line. Like the guy pressed the start button. How does that, how does that cause it to leak? Like, and then he even brought up, I think, what was the access? He was like, what's the access? Is it an I box where we have tracked entry and exit, or was it a combo box? Because if it's combo box, you can't even prove that we were the only ones in there. I mean, he was super defensive and like, man, I was just trying to work for a resolution here, but clearly that wasn't your goal. So you clearly don't care about a resolution and coming up with a mutual win. So yeah, I mean, definitely it like Lonnie mentioned it at team meeting. He's like, I think right now Branson Real Estate Group is involved with 3 transactions with Southland agents. And obviously we can't always choose who we're working with on the other side, but you're right, Jake, it does matter. If I see an offer coming in on my property from Joe Blow at Joe Blow's brokerage, or I see one coming in from Jake Keith, well, guess which one I'm leaning towards, right? So it does absolutely matter. So anyway, I wanted to bring that up a little bit just to maybe we glean something from it. Maybe we pick up some tidbits of info and learn from Becca's hardship there. So sorry you had to go through that, Becca. It's a total pain. So anybody have any similar instances or anything to share or questions, comments, smart remarks on that? And then I'll get off of that one.
One last thought I had is one of the things Becca did do after this happened was she called another inspector, someone she had a friendly relationship with, to go, hey, I know this wasn't your deal. You didn't do this. You're not there, but you are an inspector. What does this look like if this were to happen to you? Like, what's the protocol from your end of things? And I think his first thing was, well, I would first of all say, hey, how do you try to prove it was me? How do you know it was me? That's going to be their first line of defense. So anyway, I just thought I learned a lot from all this situation. Let me say that. Not sure there's anything I could do differently other than, just make sure that there's always a I box on it. Otherwise, it happens.
Put cameras in all listings from here on out.
Cameras,
right?
There you go.
Yeah, set up your surveillance shop. I know.
Yes.
And also that's another, I don't anymore, but I worked with an absentee investor for a couple of years and had a lot of, he had a lot of just the houses were vacant. He never lived in them. Did a quick flip and the houses were always vacant. And having a vacant house as a listing agent, I thought my head went to it. Clearly, Becca didn't do anything wrong at all. I was just thinking in my head, like, if that's me, I was just doing a self-evaluation. I know that whenever I was doing David Eastland's listings, I was not going by the houses every day. Sometimes I don't even, there might even be a time that I didn't go by it for a week. If there wasn't any showings or anything, like I might do a quick drive by and make sure like that every house in the light, every light in the house wasn't left on. But when we have a vacant house, are there any things that we can do to stave that off? Maybe you add that to your checklist of, hey, if the house is sitting empty, I might need to go by every other day, and that may not have even been enough. I don't know. Becca may have been there. I don't know what that time frame was, but again, just trying to think like, wow, what could I learn from this? Or is there anything that we could have done better on our end to help protect our seller? And, oftentimes there's not. It just, life happens and things happen. It is what it is. But just taking the learning opportunity of like, oh, is there something that I could do to hedge my bet that, that doesn't happen? So, yeah, interesting. Lots of learning cases and lots of case studies here. In this one was an interesting one. So, and Lonnie and Darren may have been involved in stuff like that in the past, and we just didn't hear about it as much. I'm sure it's not the first time that everybody's just said like, well, it's not my fault. It's not my fault. And everybody's standing around saying it's not my fault. So, and in the end, the seller has a house that's got damage now. And so the seller's stuck with something that wasn't their fault, and they're having to eat some costs. So that's a total bummer, but, yeah, ouch situation. So, okay, good
I was going to
finishing
say
thoughts on
Tim,
that one.
that. I know it's a little redneck, but a trail camera is very easy to move from property to property. And then if you ever have an issue, you just set it up somewhere where it's looking at the house, and it'll take pictures and show you the times and dates where people are going in and out. And it's literally just a strap you hook around something. I know it's a little redneck, but I mean, heck, you can get those for $50 and move them to all your properties. You can even get the ones with the cellular cameras. Those are a subscription, but I mean, I know it's a little redneck, but that's something at least.
Hey, we're Cass County, baby. I think we can make redneck happen,
I was like watching those shows in California. They're like, oh my goodness, a gun in the house. And I'm like,
Right.
that's 90% of the showings I feel like out here.
Right. I've got a listing on Hubach Hill, and we went in, Coover and I walked in to do photos and video. I mean, he just had like rifles laying on the floor in the master bedroom and stuff. I'm like, you're not ready for pics, and can I please put all these in the closet so they're not laying out for pictures? I'm like, yeah, welcome
He had a gun
to my
safe in his
county.
room.
Yeah, he did. Guess it was full already.
That's
Guess
a
it was
great
full.
listing. If you guys haven't seen Tim's listing, it's fantastic. The one off Hubach.
Yeah, bring your buyers. Let's sell it. I need to sell that one.
Yeah, it showed great.
Good. Yeah, thanks for walking through it and doing a video, Jake. That was awesome. Jake just did a walkthrough video. Jake does that. I've seen some of his where he's even sitting in the bathtub. Josh Fife, he usually goes and sits on the toilet. There's no bad exposure, right? I mean, with Southland listings, if you see a good listing, or even if it's just you don't have anything going on, go just call an agent real quick and go, hey, can I run in there and can I film a little 5-minute video, or do a video tour of it? Or most of the times, our agents especially are going to totally green light that, as long as it's okay with the sellers. And yeah, for me, I was like, yeah, heck yes, go do it. Let's post that video everywhere. Let's get as much exposure as possible. We did. I thought I would. I did actually want to bring that listing up because our sellers, and they're okay to divulge this information. Our sellers are going through a divorce, and so they're going in two different directions. And they have a good amount of equity in the house, and they have some cash on hand. But both of them, debt to income ratio, they would have been contingent offers. They're both buying it. They're each buying their own house now, and they would have been contingent offers. So we explored the Home Light program that Todd Branson offers. And so I thought I'd share just real quick. Has anybody not heard of Todd talk about Home Light? He's mentioned it in our team meetings before a couple times. So the Home Light program is basically a guarantee buy financing package that Todd can put together that allows your buyers to put out offers that are non-contingent because it's a guaranteed sale through Home Light. And so we explored that so that because the price range in the area that these guys were looking in, we felt like there's no way we can get a contingent offer accepted. So let's take a look at Home Light. It was about as smooth and seamless as any financing I've ever been a part of. Todd gave us a list of about 4 things that we needed to do for their listing. And then everything else was just them submitting their loan docs. What was the cost to your clients? It was a full 1% of our sale price. So they surrender an additional 1% of our sales price to Home Light, and Home Light gets that as that's their fee. That's their they don't ever want to buy a property, right? They want the house to sell on open market. But their risk threshold or their cost on that, it's a 1% fee. So it cost them several $1,000s, right? In addition to what their normal closing costs would be. But they submit their loan docs to Todd, just like normal verification of employment, credit, work history, tax returns, all of the normal stuff. And then Home Light required us to do a pre-inspection, and they wanted pictures of it up front. So I send a bunch of pictures over to Todd, and we have the inspectors come in, do a pre-inspection on it, because basically Home Light, even though they don't want to buy it or intend to, if they do have to do the guaranteed buy and purchase the home, they want to know what they're purchasing. So that's the purpose for the pre-inspection. So we're out $400 or so up front to do a pre-inspection. And they did have some piers installed on the foundation way back in 2005. And so the inspector said, hey, let's have an engineer just look at that, make sure that it's still good and it hasn't moved at all. It doesn't look like it. Let's just have an engineer look at it. So because the inspector wrote that in the inspection report, Home Light required us to have an engineer. So called Bob Quick over at Royal Engineering. They ran over and looked at the foundation and did their normal report. They said that it was just fine. No work is needed. We sent that off to Home Light, and Home Light said, yep, you guys are good to go. They sent us over pre-approvals for my 2 sellers, and she has already purchased and moved into her next place. And we had, I think it was once she closed, because she closed on hers before he did. He closes on Tuesday, and she's already closed on hers. Once she closed, we had 21 days to get their listing on the market. And then from the time we go live on the market with their listing, we have 120 days to get it sold before Home Light purchases it at a discounted rate. So really, even time-wise, we had plenty of time. Like there was a good window of time to get everything done. It was very reasonable. Their communication has all been through phone call. And then when we signed stuff, it was through DocuSign. So super easy transaction on our end. Their purchases happened just like normal. There was nothing unique or nothing different that we had to do on their purchases. The only thing was that we just had some timing stipulations for the listing going active on the market and getting it under contract. And so we priced it aggressively because we didn't want it to be on the market any longer than it needed to be. So we priced it aggressively and went live yesterday and got a bunch of showings on it. And all we have to do is answer Home Light questions when they pop up. And what they want to know is, what are we under contract for? What's the inspection period? How they want updates as we get through the process, which any lender, we're doing that to our lenders anyway. So, and even if it was a contingent if we would have gone contingent, we still would have updates and have additional documentation to submit. So for the most part, I mean, it was super streamlined. Todd, of course, communicates at a high level, and he made it very easy for all of us to understand. And I just thought I thought I'd share, if you get into a little situation where somebody's going to have to be contingent and they have a lot of equity, the Home Light opportunity is highly recommended by me, because it literally allowed us to put 3 transactions together that otherwise I don't know that we would have been able to.
Hey Tim, I was looking up on ChatGPT just asking how much a contingent offer is worth versus a non-contingent offer. Like what's the equivalent offer on a $500,000 house? And it said for a good rule of thumb, a non-contingent offer can be 1 to 2% lower than a contingent offer in the Kansas City area. So that 1%
Ah,
fee, we're pretty much saving that because our offer can be 1 to 2% lower, being non-contingent versus contingent.
there you go. Shows your financial savviness over me. I didn't even think about that. That wasn't even like something that I had considered. But yeah, that makes total sense because we have to offset if we have a contingency, we got to offset that and make our offer more appealing. So if they're having to offer more money,
Right.
yeah, didn't even think about that. So it's about a wash then, isn't it?
Yeah, so like a 495 non-contingent or a 500 contingent, which one are we accepting? Those are,
Yeah,
I'd probably lean the non-contingent.
yeah, I hear you. I think that I would too, obviously. So anyway, massive kudos to Todd for putting that together and bringing that up. And he, of course, communicated. You know that Joel, Mr. Seller, he's actually in banking, and when we kind of threw the idea out there, he was like, "It sounds pretty hokey to me." Like, I what you know? I mean, he had never heard of it before, and was like, "Ah, this sound like it sounds shady. Like we're trying to make something happen that shouldn't happen." And of course my knowledge of how the program works intricately was minimal, just what Todd had given us overviews at team meeting. So Todd had a conversation directly with Joel, and Todd's like, I'll call you and let you know how the conversation goes. And before Todd even got a chance to call me back, Joel's like, sounds great, we're doing it. So I'm like, awesome. And like I said, it's been really smooth and really easy. And now we're on the market with their listing, and she's already in the new house, and he closes next week. And it was an awesome program to use. So if you had kind of heard Todd talk about it, hadn't had a chance to really investigate it, if you got that situation coming up, I would highly recommend looking at it because it worked out awesome for us.
How long did it take? You said it was very smooth, but say somebody wants to go in and be contingent, and then you submit an offer and they say, okay, come back non-contingent. How long was that process from them submitting their paperwork to where they got the non-contingent offer? You said they had the inspection and all that other stuff. So did it take a week or?
I was going to say, yeah, it was about a week. And most of that was just because we had to get the inspector out there. We had to get the inspection report and then submit it to Home Light.
So when
So
did they
for the,
have to pay the fee? Could we do that? Like, could we like proactively start the program? And if we need to use
yes.
it, could we use it? And then,
Yeah. So yeah, they basically pull that fee out of seller's proceeds. So they don't pay anything up front. So that's why I say like it really works well if somebody has a lot of equity in the house, or even just like a decent amount of equity because the money's there. And then when they sell the house, then it's just a line item, on the settlement statement, and Home Light collects that fee out of it. So yeah, no money up front. Well, I take that back. They had to do the pre-inspection, so they had out front expense or ahead of transaction expense due to the inspection. But I part of me feels like, man, if you don't have $500 for a pre-inspection, we might need to think about something else. We need to look at some of the other parameters here. But yeah, as far as the 1%, which if you got a $500,000 house, 1%'s a chunk of change. So that could be your down payment, or something. So on your next property. So the fact that they just take it out of proceeds was a huge win for our clients.
yeah, I was just curious on some clients that they're like, hey, let's try to go contingent. And then when they realize they can't, like, could we go ahead and get the other one done and submit it, but just not use it? So then if we need to use it, it could be less than a week or,
Yeah, yeah, you can definitely do that. And in the experience that I had, I would say if that's a possibility that you want the opportunity to go either way, I would have them work with Todd to begin with. That way, if you do need to use Home Light, Todd's already got everything, and that would expedite switching over to Home Light. Because, for example, Mr. Seller was going to use a loan officer at Flat Branch that he had used in the past. and Flat Branch doesn't have the home light program, and Flat Branch could only get him approved if he went contingent. So we made that change over to Todd because we are like, hey, let's just look and see if this would work for you guys. So that also gives Todd the opportunity. I don't know, as far as lending standards and what they can purchase. This would be a question for Todd. I'm not sure if there's any additional overlays that they have for lending guidelines. So I would probably lean towards having Todd pre-approve them first. That way he would already know if they qualified for home light. I don't know if their credit, if they need a 620 credit or a 650 or a 700, or I don't know if there's any additional requirements that the home light program has. I don't think so. I think it all hinges on that listing property, but I'm just not positive.
That's a great resource. I haven't used it yet, so thanks for answering all my questions on that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Everybody wants to try. Like, let's try to go contingent first. What everybody wants to do.
Yep. Well, I've got one of those too, and I got another one of those clients that's doing that right now, and that's my next conversation. Is hey, let's. They already have a lender that they like, and so hey, let's just talk to Todd. Todd tells us that all the time. If you got a tough one, let me have a look at it. I might be able to solve the problem. So I'm going to connect them with Todd to see if we can do the same thing again, because this one went so well. So, yeah. Has anybody else used it in our office yet? Anybody have a different experience? Nope. No. Okay. I mean, I'll be honest, I was a little bit leery going into it. Like, I don't know. And then sometimes I'm like, man, 1%, that's a lot of money just to go, but you're right, Jake. I'm glad you ran that math. I didn't even think about it that way. 1% to go non-contingent is not really, it didn't really matter actually. So
heck, you might save money.
It might have saved money. It was for sure a wash.
490 non-contingent versus 500 contingent. I mean, that's pretty.
Yeah, that's right.
And it's on the sale of the home too, which is cool because that's usually the cheaper one.
That's right.
Usually. Yep. Not on your situation probably, but.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. All right. What other items that we got? Anybody have anything they want to throw out to the group? Sometimes I feel like I talk too much and make it the Tim show, and I don't mean to do that. I just wanted to share that home light because I thought that was we just had such a good experience. Anybody got anything they want to throw out there, or any issues that we need to talk about? None. That's awesome.
I feel like I've been talking about this mastermind, so I apologize.
Good work.
But I had one.
You're great.
An appraiser came back. I don't know if I told you guys about it or not, but the house had too many spiders in the basement because it was an old lady that lived there, never went to her basement, backed up to a pond, had too many spiders in the basement and spider webs. So the appraiser made us get like a pest treatment or just get the spiders out of there. So I had the company come out, treat for the spiders, knock them all down and whatever. Sent that over to the appraiser, and they're like, well, we need to get an actual pest inspection. And so I've been calling inspectors and like, well, we don't inspect for spiders. And what are we going to say, that there's no spiders in the property out in the country that backs up to water in the middle of the summer? So I'm having a little trouble with getting the appraiser to get me what I need. Because have you guys ever, this is the first time I've ever had anybody come back and say there's too many spiders in that basement. And it wasn't like a crazy amount of spiders. I mean, there were spider webs, but it was just old lady never went down there and backed up to a pond.
Sure. I've definitely never had an appraiser bring that up. I've had buyers, buyers that definitely took exception to that, but I've never had an appraiser. What did they say? What did they actually write up?
There must have been a city slicker. That's funny. But yeah, no, it was like the roof. We needed a new roof, which is fine. And then they were asking for a pest inspection. And I'm like, what? Like, there's no termites. And and then I called a couple inspectors yesterday. They're like, well, we don't inspect for spiders. And I don't know what they even want us to say.
Typically, those appraisals have the appraiser's name and number on there. Have you called the appraiser directly to determine what they're looking for?
James McClay is the lender on that one, so he's calling him today. He's been working back. We just got the because we got the treatment done and sent that invoice over to him, and kind of had him write some language saying that this is not an infestation, normal treatment, blah blah blah, and they didn't accept that. So he's talking to them today at 1 o'clock.
Yeah.
So
Wow, they didn't accept that write-up?
I know. So say that again, Nate.
Something tells me a little bit of common sense communication will prevail and allow things to continue moving as they should.
Yeah. He said this appraiser's a jackwagon, and it's not the first time she's called out spiders. So just kind of a weird one.
Yeah, it's annoying.
Yeah, on a property in Butler that backs up to a pond. Like, yeah, what a shocker, there were spiders there.
Right. Feels like a normal situation, doesn't it?
Yeah.
No, I've not seen that one.
And luckily it's in Butler where I have a lot of contacts and everybody just loves to go very easily. So no, it's hard to get anybody down there.
Mm-hmm. Hey, okay, so that's more of appraisal, not inspection, but I had a couple of deals fall apart over sewer lines. I've had some year, I think, or within the last year that I've ever had. Did have a really nice surprise one on a sewer line scope the other day. The house was built in '59 and it's got a ton of trees in the backyard, and I was pretty leery about what that sewer line might look like, and it was in incredible shape. It was really nice. But have any of you guys, or do you, maybe you have, or them yourself, but the Sewer Line Warranties of America policy is like $120 a year for sewer line replacement? You guys seen those, heard of them, have clients that have them? So there's a company called Sewer Line Warranties of America, and they don't they don't cover all zip codes, but they cover a lot of the zip codes in the Kansas City metro area. And one of our clients, he had a sewer line scope done, and that was the one that it was like, wow, surprisingly, this one's really clean. And his dad owns a plumbing company. And our buyer's dad was like, well, either way, you're getting a sewer line warranty on it. It's available in this area. And he was like, oh yeah, I wouldn't even think about not getting it for $120 a year. Well, we had a house. I remember we had a house in Brookside, and the sewer was not awesome, but our client already had a sewer line warranty on it, and it wasn't through the city, but I think the city of Kansas City, if you're in Kansas City proper, they have one that's available through the city. But this one was through the company Sewer Line Warranties of America, and it was transferable. And so we were able to transfer that policy because it had like 8 months left on it. And the buyer was like, oh my gosh. And they were like, yeah, we definitely want to renew it from here on out, because that can cost $20,000-$30,000 to replace that sewer line. And sewer line warranties, like, they replace them all the time. And our buyer on this recent one, whose dad owns the plumbing company, he told me he used to work for Sewer Line Warranties of America. And he was like, here's some tricks you need to know. Some of the policies and some of the areas, they'll only pay for $5,000 at a time. And so he was like, oh, the way you work around that. And he was like saying all these workarounds, how they made it happen through the company, where let's say it was an $18,000 sewer line. Well, they would repair $5,000 worth of sewer line and call it, these are our parts and material for that. And they submit an invoice for that, turn around and file another claim for the next $5,000 worth of work. And Sewer Line Warranties of America was paying it out. And he was like, we replace whole sewer lines all the time. He was like, I'm not worried about this one though at all. And then he asked me, he was like, do you have a sewer line warranty at your house? And I was like, I actually don't know. And he was like, well, you need to get one. I mean, that was the business that he used to be in, obviously. But if you jump on their website and look at their packages, like, they're the real deal. If you have a client that's in an area that you're concerned about the sewer line at all, the buyer may not even know that that exists. I've talked to a lot of buyers that don't, and I didn't until that Brookside house that we had. But sewer line warranty, Jake just put on here State Farm twice on sewer line insurance claims. They didn't cover it. Yeah, State Farm doesn't. My insurance company doesn't cover it either. It's a separate policy and it's relatively easy to get. And you can even jump on their website and put in the property's address and they'll tell you, whether it's available in that area or not. And I think it has to do with the availability of contractors, local contractors that do the work. So like if you're way out
policies on both of those, they paid additional for the sewer line coverage on both of those.
Oh, gotcha.
And, neither one of them, I think one of them paid $2,500 and the other was denied.
I gotcha.
I think one was underneath the driveway or something like that. And then another one was 51 years old and they only covered to 50. But they could pay the premium for it every month.
Yeah, right. So anyway, dealing with that, a couple of these, it's like, man, if they would have had a sewer line policy in place, we could have probably got them repaired and been able to kept the deal together and would have saved a deal. So, anyway, a little tip or trick there if you're not familiar or haven't had that conversation with the buyer, something to look into. Sewer line warranties of America. What other inspection items are you guys running into? Yeah, I know whenever the inspectors kind of go through their continuing ed, they start hitting us and like writing up some of the same stuff over and over again. What are some of the more common write-ups that you guys are seeing out there right now? Anything that we need to work through or be aware of?
I've had a couple. Sorry, I was late joining y'all.
Oh, you're good, Darren.
I've had a couple where the inspector didn't directly say anything about a thing, but the underwriters did. And it's typically something from a picture. Maybe there's a crack in the basement wall or something. I've had a couple too where in the disclosure, because everybody should answer yes to the question that asks if there's any flaws or cracks or whatever in the foundation or the sheetrock or any of that. There's a flaw in every house.
Sure.
But because of that, the underwriters have required like a structural engineer report. So even if the appraiser doesn't mention it, you might get hit after that from the underwriters, depending on who the company is and all that.
I have had that. I had that one recently too, that it wasn't a condition of appraisal, I think is what you're saying. Like the appraiser didn't take exception to it, but then once it hit the underwriter's table, the underwriters were like, oh, we need to have a specialist come out and look at it, or we want this repair made. I've had that happen twice. I guess, I suppose they have the liberty to ask for that, but it's a bummer.
They have the money.
Yeah. Right. It's a bummer.
I had one too. It was conventional. Oh, you were cutting out, Tim.
Sorry, go ahead, Darren.
Okay, thanks. I had one too that was conventional that required a handrail going to the basement. And the sellers were a little ticked. They're like, we just bought this 5 years ago, conventional, and that seller didn't have to put the handrail in. The handrail was removed so they could move mattresses and furniture in. So I talked to the appraiser about it, and of course it was the underwriter's call. And the appraiser said, look, just build something ugly out of 2x4s. If it's sturdy, send me a picture. I'll send it with the appraisal, to the underwriters. And we got through it that way.
So all they had to do, there was no reinspection or anything. It was just sending a picture to the underwriting department.
Well, to the appraiser, or maybe it was to the lender or the loan officer, but just building a quote unquote ugly 2x4 handrail. And then I'm sure those buyers unscrewed it and took it right out of the way.
Right. Interesting.
I had that required to put in a handrail on both sides, and one side, it's an unfinished basement, had a little bit of an opening, like wasn't a wall. and they required us to put in the handrail, but also we had to include every 5 inches another board so that it was completely enclosed all the way down.
Wow.
So it wasn't an issue anywhere until it got to underwriting. Of course, we were about ready to close and we had to go back in and measure. We had to show with measuring tapes that those spaces were only 5 inches apart between all our 2x4s on the open section. So now we had holes in all kinds of stuff that they didn't want, but
Yeah.
it was the only way we could get it done was to go back and add all those boards.
And Tricia, that wasn't a request of appraisal. That was at the request of the underwriter.
I do believe that's where we got
Yeah.
back around to. Yeah.
Do you
So-
remember, was it FHA or conventional or what?
It was FHA.
Okay.
Yeah. So we went in and put the 2 handrails knowing that's okay. But then they were like, no, they have to, on the open section, which was only a small bit at the bottom, you could only have 5-inch gaps all the way down.
Yeah.
Or we could have built a wall. We had a choice.
It does surprise me that the appraiser didn't have it as a condition of appraisal, but then the underwriting department then kicks it back. I mean, Darren's right. They're the check writers. So I guess they have obviously the liberty to do that. It's not very common though. Like something like that has happened to me once before where underwriting kicked it back and wanted something, but that's not, I don't think that's common, is it? Yeah. Is anybody else having that stuff getting kicked back from underwriting?
I
Just
had
once on
one.
my end, Tim.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I had one with the same thing with a stairway that needed bars, and we had to do it before closing. Yeah.
Okay. So those are all mainly like life safety or personal
Mhm.
safety. Yeah. Okay. Joe's was the same. Handrail. Okay. Interesting. I'll have to watch that. I've always said that for like FHA and VA, like, hey, this stairway might need a handrail or, like, so just kind of preparing them for that. I had a front porch where it definitely had more than 3 risers on the front porch and there was no handrail. So I just kind of let them know like, hey, yeah, if we open ourselves up to FHA and VA, which I'd highly recommend, we may have to put a handrail here, but I've never been called out on a handrail, but I know that's a deal. But it looks like a lot of you guys had. So handrail's a deal, which is interesting because I'll throw a little electrical tidbit about out here. So OSHA, the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, OSHA does documentations on like work-related injuries and accidents, and in the electrical field, everybody thinks that shock or, electric shock related injuries would be the number one cause of missed time injury in the electrical field. Do you want to know what it is? Falls. Falls is the number one cause of work related injury for electricians. They're really good with
on
electricity.
ladders.
They're not. Yep. 100%. It's ladders. Yep.
Yep.
Falling from a
Under
ladder.
6 feet. Under 6 foot
Always.
too, aren't they?
Yep. Most dangerous tool that an electrician carries around is a 4-foot step ladder. Isn't that crazy? And that's the same. That's in several. It's probably same with carpenters. I don't know. Finn might be able to speak to that. If the falls are the number one cause of work-related injuries. Guys just get in a hurry, or they come off the step and twist an ankle, or somebody sets something down and it's behind the ladder, and that happens all the time. So that doesn't shock me to see that that they're requiring handrails more and more and more. So.
Yeah, Tim, you can't even hardly get a ladder on a job. I got a friend that's a superintendent in the electrical union. He goes, you have to submit a form to get a ladder now. They want you
right.
on a lift or a baker is what they're wanting you on now at this point. So yeah, safety is the key. It's because humans are so expensive to fix. And so protecting them at all costs, even from themselves, is better, and they would rather slow the work down and make it more expensive to the end user, of course. But it keeps people in one piece and alive. So that's what their goal is, I think. But it is for, I do not love OSHA, but OSHA does save lives. So I do love that about them.
Yep, 100%. And I know that's what the intent of these underwriters and the appraisers are when they're asking for that stuff. Even if it's vertical uprights, and what was the gap, Trisha? It's like no bigger than a 5-inch diameter ball can't fit through the spindles. And I think that's for a child head. That's like the average size of an infant's head or something. So nobody gets entrapment and stuff. But that's the intention of all that, is to not blow apart real estate deals, but to protect lives and to prevent injury. So I can accept that. It's just a bummer when the appraiser doesn't call it out and then it comes back from underwriting, because at least when the appraiser calls it out, you got a little bit of a time to a few days anyway to get it knocked out. When it's the underwriting department, you're usually in the last week, and then you're scrambling to try to get a handyman over there, and people are trying to pack and move, and that's a real bummer. So anytime that you can kind of, and that was the whole reason of me asking the question, is what are you guys seeing out there? Because like the situation with Becca's, I'm always asking, like reevaluating, like what conversation do I need to have with my clients to prep them for that possibility? Hey, there's no handrail at all on the stairs down to the basement, or the stairs are irregular. We may get asked to do some corrective action here. And then if we do get asked to it, it's not a shocker at the 11th hour. It's something they were already sort of preemptively ready for, as a possibility of requirement anyway. So
yeah, I
thanks
think
for sharing that. I appreciate you guys sharing that.
We need to let our clients know that anything is possible.
That's true.
Jake just mentioned spiders. 31 years, I don't think I've ever seen anything other than, wood destroying insects. But
leave it to Jake.
Exactly. But now that the underwriters are starting to do stuff, and like you said, it's last minute, you have less days to fix whatever that issue is. I tell everybody anything's possible.
Yeah, that's great. That's a good coverage, because I think if I had my biggest con or my biggest negative to this industry, is a lot of the things that cause problems or cause headaches to my clients is stuff that's completely out of my control. There's nothing I can do. There's nothing Becca could have done for her sellers in that situation. The only thing that we can do is, as Darren put it, be ready for anything. And these are some possibilities. These are some things that I've run into, not trying to scare you, but just trying to prepare you. And, managing expectations is the biggest part of what we do. It's a bummer when stuff outside of our control causes problems, but that's why we get paid the big bucks, right? To mitigate issues and challenges, and have our clients' expectations ready to rock and roll for what the market might throw at them, or the appraiser or the underwriter. Yeah, that's a good call, Darren. Be ready for anything.
Just like Ross, be ready to pivot.
That's right.
Pivot.
That's funny. All right, 2 minutes. It's the last 2 minutes. What do you got? Anybody have any closing remarks?
I got something real quick just to see what you guys think. I've got I had a deal fall apart. I'm working with the seller. It was preventable, but everything was within contract as far as the buyer's pulling out. And then my seller's very mad, is unwilling to sign over the earnest to release the earnest deposit, and wanted to reach out to their broker to inform them that their agent sucks or whatever. So I was curious how you guys handled that situation. At this point, I gave him the broker's info. I reached out to the broker and it's a KW broker, one of the other KW offices. I reached out to the broker and gave him a heads up that he's going to get a call from a client that's frustrated, but I don't think they were breaking any law. Their agent did anything, immoral, just kind of as a courtesy call. And then I advised my client that I think they have the right to have their earnest deposit back. He disagrees, but I don't know what to do at this point, if there's anything to do.
what was their maybe we ask a couple of questions to Josh here. What was their reason for canceling contract? You said that they were really in the right to do it. It's a bummer. You
Well,
could have kept the deal together, but what caused them to back out?
they ex- they asked for some stuff in the offer because we already had an inspection report, and they were just doing the sewer line and scope and having a structural engineer come out, and they said they were not on contract, of course, but they said they weren't going to ask for anything unless it came up from those two, because they asked for a few things in their offer, and then they did ask for a couple things because their agent assumed those were going to be taken care of and they weren't. And then my client was thrown all off guard and was mad at him, and then, but ended up fixing all this stuff anyway. But that's where it could have been prevented because my client fixed all the stuff they wanted anyway. But at that point, they were frustrated that there was a dispute. So it's, and he feels like they were incorrect. The agent was incorrect in something they told their client. Agents are wrong all the time, but they were incorrect in something, and he feels as though that's the reason it all fell apart.
But technically, they were in their inspection period, and
contract wise,
they paid a third party.
Everything's good. Yeah,
I think it's a bummer, but I think they're giving back that earnest deposit is what it sounds like to me.
He won't sign it, so I don't know. But I can't. I can't make him.
You can't, and Josh did call me on this yesterday, but the thing we have to remember to tell buyers is, hey, if you cancel during the inspection period, you'll get your earnest money back. Well, you should get your earnest money back, but remind them that the seller has to approve of that, or it just gets held at the title company it's either a year or two, and then it goes back to the state, and then they have to fight over it, or it's in that unclaimed money division that each state has. So I hope we all tell them, you should get your earnest money back, but explain to them that the seller has to agree to release it to them. I can't imagine how many millions of dollars get tied up from sellers that won't sign or buyers that won't sign, for the release of that money. And then the title companies just have to get rid of it.
Right.
I have a question just very quickly. I know we're past our time.
Yeah, but we're having fun.
No, you're good. I have to jump off of here, but you ask your question, and then you close us out, Trisha. But I'm hopping off.
Perfect.
Okay, sounds good.
My
Thanks, guys.
question is, Darren, can that property go under another contract if they still are in this situation with that earnest money?
Spectacular question, and you're good at asking those. Technically, it now has a cloud on the title. Will a cloud keep it from closing? No. What are the odds of that buyer suing the seller and saying, look, we've got, I think the only fear would be the buyer suing and saying, look, we had a contract, and could they somehow get a judge to say, okay, well, buyers, it's now your house.
Well, the buyers are the ones that canceled on this one.
Well, right. And so I don't think the cloud would ever, I'm off screen. I don't think the cloud would ever cause a problem down the road, but usually that same title company won't close it with another buyer because they know about the tied up earnest money. So a lot of times you have to find another title company, which feels dirty, but I think that's all you can do.
What happens to that earnest at the end if they go to another title company and things like that? You said the earnest just sits there
from the first buyer?
Yeah,
it sits there, and I think the title company, after a year, they can send it to the state. I don't know if it's a year or 2 or 3, but the title company's not going to make the determination on where it goes. They won't do anything with it until they have the form signed by all parties. So then it just goes to the state.
The other agent let me know the client is her son, so I think she hasn't told me that, but she keeps same last name, keeps her vague stuff. But either way, she said their intent is to wait till after it closes and then take them to small claims court. I don't know why wait till after it closes, but that's what she said their intent is.
So you're not stuck with the house and a lawsuit. You just have a lawsuit to be stuck with. That's what my sellers are considering doing with the other people. Or they did consider.
Yeah. So
What
yeah, I don't know.
did sellers say whenever you showed them the contract and said that they are lawfully, like they can do this?
He disagrees.
With what? The lawyer
that
contract?
that they were allowed in a position. He thinks they were in breach of contract by, I think he said, for asking. They didn't do a whole home inspection, and the things they asked for were from the whole home inspection. So he thinks they weren't, in his interpretation of the contract, they weren't allowed to ask for that stuff, and they were in breach of contract because they didn't inspect it. But they did inspections. There is a line in there that says in the contracts, say if no inspections are done, buyer waives the right to renegotiate. So if they only use a previous inspection, according to the and don't do any new ones, according to the contract, they don't have a right to renegotiate. But they did inspections, just not a whole home inspection. So I explained all that to him. He's a little grouchy about the whole ordeal. So I don't know. I advised. I gave him the broker's info. Call and complain all you want. So I don't know.
So just to kind of wrap this all up or bring it back around. So, and Josh, I know that that other agent actually called me. It is her son. But so you got the cancellation from the buyer. Buyer wants to cancel. Your seller does not. So Darren, if one party signs that cancellation, would you say that that contract is canceled? I mean, I understand the earnest money's in limbo, but the contract. So Josh can put it back on the market. Is that right? Oh, you're muted.
Okay. Am I on?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. Another tricky question. Technically, probably not until after the date it should have closed. But if it's my seller, am I putting it back in the MLS? Probably.
I did, so I hope so.
Do we have to disclose that?
Disclose what?
That there was earnest and another contract that hasn't been resolved yet.
I don't know. I've never seen that on the MLS.
I know I was talking to Joe Goodwin. I think it was Goodwin about it, and said that they were in that situation and they moved forward and closed. And then the earnest deposit was dealt with later or whatever. I don't remember though. Joe?
How much was the earnest?
I'm still fighting that,
$1,000.
but we did close.
1,000?
Yeah.
Yeah, the trick is, up until that closing date, and technically without that cancellation, you still kind of have that cloud.
But the buyer signed it, so they canceled. They canceled their offer. We didn't release the earnest deposit. Seems gray.
It's very gray until the seller signs it.
Yeah.
Can we write in there, seller agrees to cancel this contract, but does not agree to release the earnest money? I don't know.
You'd have to just send over a separate cancellation with that.
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah, that's what can happen. The seller sends over their own cancellation that says we keep our earnest money. Buyer has their cancellation. They keep their earnest money. We got two cancellations. That makes one whole one, right, Darren? Two halves make a whole.
I'm not a judge. I'm not an attorney.
I have heard that for real, though. I have heard that.
Maybe they'd split it 500.
Well, yeah.
Well, the other agent does think the real estate commission is involved now. I believe she's incorrect. I think they got scared because they were breaking other laws. But so yesterday she called me because she thought the real estate commission was involved, which, again, 99% sure that's not true. Nobody's made it. Especially, they're not getting on it within an hour. Within an hour of my client getting the information, she said, we got a call from the real estate commission. They didn't. They got a call from their broker that said somebody complained about them. But she was scared. So now she wants to resolve this however possible. So we make it the full 1,000 because now she's scared of the real estate commission. But morally, I've been struggling with this because my client's being a butthole.
We should put that in our listing agreement. You're not allowed to be a butthole. You
I
signed
wish.
right there.
Yeah.
That's one of our house rules at my house. You can't be a butthole.
Yeah.
Hey, can I add a layer to this question real quick? I know we're over time.
This is good stuff though. Go ahead, Lisa.
So I have a listing and my buyer, or not my buyer, I have a listing and my seller has, he's had a whole home inspection done 2 weeks ago, just because he wanted to be prepared and knowledgeable about anything that might come up. And he has it to where it's available for the buyer. So if that buyer opts to use that inspection and not do their own, if I'm reading this correctly, being newer here, they waive their right to cancel or renegotiate based on anything in the inspection paid for by my seller, correct?
I'm not a broker. I'm gonna wait for Darren to unmute, but that's how I read it too, Lisa. That's my interpretation of the contract. But
It says if buyer does not conduct inspections, buyer will waive any right to cancel or renegotiate this contract pursuant to the inspection provisions.
Okay, so if the buyer's not paying for it and buyer's not ordering it and it's not the buyer's inspection, they can use the information, but they waive their right to cancel or renegotiate.
So, but can't they do inspections themselves and just take a picture of that same thing and put it and say, this is broken, I want it fixed? And then that's your inspection?
They'd have to do their own inspection and pay for it then.
Well, I don't think you technically have to pay for it.
It says the inspections have to be done by an independent qualified inspector.
Okay.
And I didn't hear Lisa's question, but I think I know what it must have been. Yeah, that's a tricky situation when they're working off of an old inspection. The best way to do that is to ask for those repairs in your offer. Seller will repair this, seller will repair that.
The inspection's a week old.
But from another buyer?
No, the seller went ahead and ordered an inspection because he wanted to know in advance what might come up.
That's so
He's been
rare.
in the house for 21 years and insisted on doing that.
That's so rare.
He's offering to make it available for review for anybody that puts a contract on there. But in reading this, if the buyer does not conduct inspections, buyer will have waived any rights. So my question was, if the buyer isn't ordering the inspection and it's not the buyer's inspector, are they waiving their rights and just using the seller provided inspection for informational purposes only?
I think that's something that should be fixed on our form. But that's so similar to Josh's deal.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it says if buyer does not conduct inspections, like I said, ideally the buyer would put it in their offer.
Couldn't they just order the cheapest inspection possible and then cancel?
There are inspectors that do a very basic inspection. Or they could, if they see an electrical issue in the old inspection, could they call Tim and say, hey, come look at this? Technically, yeah, but is Tim an inspector?
Well,
I would just order an inspection. I mean, if there was something in that inspection and I had the buyer, I would say this is a gray area. Let's just pay the $400 and get an inspection, and then that's what I would do.
That's the best bet.
Well, and that was our issue, is they did a sewer line scope and had a structural engineer come out. So in my eyes, they did inspections. They were allowed to ask for whatever. But my client feels like since they didn't have a home inspection, they can't ask for home inspection stuff. I don't know.
They can still cancel.
I personally agree with you, Josh. I'm with you on that.
Yeah.
Especially if they had a structural engineer come out, they could say, oh, well, the report was fine, but it just made me uneasy because of this verbiage.
Well, yeah.
They should be able to cancel.
The buyer doesn't have to prove why they're canceling. You don't have to prove it. You don't have to prove. You can just say, hey, I don't feel comfortable moving forward. We did inspections, don't want to move forward. We want to cancel. You don't have to prove it, you know, why. So I'm with you on that, Josh. So I think I think about it the way you do.
Yeah, the buyer doesn't have to ask for repairs and then cancel.
Yeah.
If they have inspections. It's tricky.
Yeah. You always learn so much.
$200,000 houses, always. It's never the $900,000 transaction.
Yeah, Josh is now only working on houses over 800,000.
Yeah, speaking of that, pre-MLS tomorrow. You guys pay attention.
Okay. Love it.
All right, I got to run, guys.
Thanks,
Sold
guys.
Mastermind overtime. It's over.
Thank
Good
you.
job, guys. Great call today.
Hey, we need to let Lonnie know how long we were here.
I know. We get extra credit.
That's right. Towards next week.
That's right. Have a good day, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.